Hi class, it's Alejandra and I'm going to be doing my presentation on slavery in Brazil. I chose to do it on two documentaries, short documentaries that I found on YouTube. One was called Slave Nation and the other was called Sugar Slavery, which were both about slavery in Brazil. The first one, Slave Nation, was a man that would kind of go around Brazil visiting these different farms where there was accusations of slavery going on there, and he would talk to the people that work there and also the slave owners. So the first slave owner that he talked to, which was a white Brazilian, was basically saying that there is no slavery in Brazil. All these accusations are false. They use commercial interests trying to make Brazil look bad, trying to hold back the development of Brazil. What they're doing on these farms are far from slavery, even though they do violate some labor laws in Brazil. They're not conducting slavery. We're not holding these people against their will. Like, he was really defending what they were all about. So um, what he was saying was contradicted, because towards the middle of the documentary they visit another farm where the police got a tip that slavery was going on there. So they went on a police raid and they found young children, men, women, and elderly people working there in poor living conditions, no food, no shelter, no water. um, they were not getting paid. They were basically working for free, but not being provided anything, which is contrary to what the first farm owner said is considered slavery. So what I found interesting doing this scene of the raid was this system that they had set up on the farm, where if the workers wanted anything, to buy anything, they would have to go to the shop, which is like a hut that they set up on the farm. And the workers didn't have any money, so what they would do is that they would kind of write it down in a book, keep record of how much debt they owed the shop, so they can pay it back later. But they were never paid, so they couldn't leave because they were in debt to the shop. It's kind of like a vicious circle that they were in. Um, Most of these slaves or workers were Afro-Brazilians. They couldn't read, couldn't write, were poor. So they were just trusting the fact that these owners were putting the correct amount of money that they owed the shop, and not just any number that popped into their head, which most likely that was the case. They would just write down any amount because the workers couldn't read what they were writing anyway. Um, Something else that popped out to me was this 7-year-old boy that they encountered on the farm. He basically was saying like he does the same amount of work that the adults do, the same type of work the adults do, and if he doesn't work, he doesn't eat, which is really sad to see and to hear a 7-year-old boy say, because he shouldn't be living such a lifestyle at such a young age. Um, Something else that I found interesting was the fact that they came across a man that in a previous police raid they had freed from a farm, but yet he was in another situation, um, being held as a slave on a farm, and they asked him, why are you here? And he basically was saying like, yeah, you freed me, but I didn't have any money. I didn't have any way to get home. I lost connection with my family. Um, and frankly, he was embarrassed at the fact that he came out here to get a better life, to bring back money to his family, to support his family, but yet he was going to come back empty-handed. So he just put himself in the situation all over again because he had no other option, which I found really sad. Um, the second documentary, Sugar Slavery, just kind of focused on sugar plantations and sugar farms, and basically it showed how these workers would be um, promised salaries, promised good living conditions, um, all this type of things that would kind of lure them to come work. And when they got there, they would all be like huddled in a shack living together, no food, no water. They would have to take showers in the river, and some of them contracted diseases. Um, they were not given any type of equipment, so when they were cutting the sugar canes, sometimes they would cut their feet with a machete or cut off their toes. Um, the way that they were transported to the farms were put like in on trucks, like horses, with also with the equipment that they needed to use, cut and do everything else to the sugarcane. Sometimes the workers would fall on the equipment and cut themselves. Um, when the sugar canes were sprayed with pesticide, that would give many of the workers long-time illnesses, and many of them would die. They were just really horrible, horrible conditions, and the workers didn't want to be there, but they had no option because some of them were there to pay back debt, and some of them were there because they had to make some type of money somehow. And the way that they did make their money was just depending on how much the boss felt like paying them. Sometimes he wouldn't pay them anything. Sometimes they would spend over 12 hours a day cutting sugar canes, and be only paid, cutting tons and tons of sugar cane, and be only paid $8, which was not enough to support themselves, let alone a family. So yeah, it was really sad to see that these type of things, this type of situations are going on still today. You would think that slavery was so many years ago, that it was abolished everywhere, but yet there are over 50,000 slaves in Brazil um, currently. So it's really shocking to find out that these type of things are going on in these poor third world countries, where most of the slaves are Afro-Brazilian, which is who are poor and can't read and can't write. And it's just sad to see the way that they end up in these situations. Like they're kind of tricked to go there, because like these owners who are rich and powerful and feel like they can buy anyone and anything would set up, like in Brazil they would set up like shacks or like kind of like hotels and bring these workers there and let them run up bills and enjoy their time. But when they can't pay it, they'll say, I'll pay it for you, but in return you have to come work on my farm and pay me back in your labor. But then eventually never be freed. So it was just kind of like really sad but shocking, and I really wanted to find out more about this because it was really surprising to find out that these type of things were still going on today. So yeah, that's what my presentation is about.